Hi, my name's Hayden Menz. I play Lord Aquario on Zodiac Task Force, and you're listening to Raving Lunatic Media.
Soon, the kingdom will be mine.
Warning. The following program contains content that is intended for mature audiences and may be uncomfortable and triggering. Listener's discretion is advised.
Better grab a drink.
Hey, you. Psst. Yeah, you. Get in here. You know what we gotta do, right? Ugh, they always give me the new guys. Today we gotta whack Shane. Boss put a hit out on him, but he doesn't know that though. So we're gonna pick him up and take him on a drive, you dig? Good. Oh, alright, here he is. Shane, good to see you, pal. Hop on in. We're gonna take you to the boss.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for the ride. Who's this?
New guy. Don't even pay attention to him. Let's get going. You know what to do, right?
What was that?
Oh, nothing. We're just gonna be taking you the long way. So, get comfy, buddy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the new, returning season of Cold Case Chase. It's been a little bit, hasn't it?
It has been a very little bit.
It has.
Or the opposite of that, really.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. It's been, oh gosh, I couldn't even tell you since what? Last August, I want to say, maybe September was the last time an episode released here. And due to popular demand, it is back. A lot has changed in my life as well as in Shane's life.
Yes.
And we are now not two completely different people, but we have gained some knowledge to bring to these episodes now. But speaking of, along for the ride, as always, is my lovely co-host, Shane. Say hi, Shane.
Hi, Shane.
Hi, Shane! Oh, I miss doing that, too. Gosh, this is just going to be very nostalgic for me for some weird reason. I don't know why. But if you couldn't tell, on this show, we recount cold cases. I recount them to my friend Shane, and we try to solve them, which we usually don't. Unless it's the Eastall woman, which I still think I kind of solved what happened there. On today's premiere episode, we're going to be diving into the ominous disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa. Oh yeah, this one was written into the contract of the merger with Raving Lunatic Media LLC. I was asked and tasked by Scott to make this, and I am happy to finally do it because I'm excited for Jimmy Hoffa. It's a bit of a doozy, honestly. Do you know a lot about this one?
I know nothing about this one.
It's funny because when I told a couple people which one I was doing first, and immediately, even the ones who were even a little bit familiar with this case were like, oh, I know exactly where he's buried. I'm like, what? What? Apparently it's like a common knowledge. I guess we'll kind of start with a couple pertinent questions here. Who was Jimmy Hoffa, and what were the circumstances leading to and surrounding his eerie vanishing? And finally, what could have been behind his vanishing? Or I guess I should say, who could have been behind his vanishing? Exactly. So without further ado, grab your popcorn, or chips, or whatever. I don't discriminate against snacks. Grab your drink, and let's dive right in. Let's dive into some background first, shall we? James Riddle Hoffa.
Riddle.
Famous, yeah, right? Sick
Is
middle
he-
name, huh?
Okay. Is he Voldemort?
No, he's the Riddler's sidekick, actually. I don't know if you knew that. Batman's rogues gallery was growing a little bit at this time. James Riddle Hoffa was known most famously as a labor union organizer, becoming the president of the Teamsters Union from 1957 to 1971. Hoffa's involvement with the Teamsters dated all the way back to the 1930s, when he was a labor organizer. At that time, the Teamsters were known mostly as a labor union for truck drivers. As a young man, Hoffa succeeded in getting dock workers better pay by organizing a strike. That eventually led to him organizing for the Teamsters, where he would slowly rise through the ranks. Hoffa's influence as the president of the Teamsters in the US was significant, as 90% of transportation in the country was controlled by the Teamsters.
Don't let any man into your cab, your home, or your heart unless he's a friend of labor.
That's American right there. Classic American.
Oh, yeah. My question is, are you a friend of labor, Shane?
I'm an associate of labor.
I'm a slave of labor at this point. In 1941, Hoffa and the Teamsters were involved in a turf war with rivals in Detroit. It was apparently around this time that Hoffa first became involved with the mob, according to author and investigative reporter Dan Moldea. Essentially, Hoffa hired the mob to get rid of these rivals, after which point the mob owned Hoffa. From here, formed a symbiotic relationship between the mob and Hoffa. The mob was able to benefit from taking loans out of the Teamsters pension fund. They funneled many of these earnings into the financing of many casinos in Las Vegas.
Sure, we loaned money to build hotels and casinos in Las Vegas. So what? Las Vegas borrowers were good customers.
There's a lot of history with the mafia and the mob in Las Vegas.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to an episode eventually, I hope, about Bugsy Siegel, kind of the godfather of Vegas, who was a gangster, he was a mobster.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, but that's for an episode later down the line. We're not going to be very loved by the mob after these episodes, Shane. I hope you're okay with that. I was talking to our writer John, and I was like, yeah, we're not going to be loved by any gangs, most of the government. We're not going to be loved by any other mob or mafia. People aren't going to like us very much.
That's okay. They probably don't like us anyway.
That's true. Don't shoot the messenger is all I'm asking at this point. I'm just presenting the cases. We don't actually solve them on the show, I promise. Except for that one.
Yeah.
I still think I solved the one case, the East Allen Valley woman. Hoffa and the Teamsters would get a favorable return on those loans. Hoffa was also known for increasing benefits and wages for workers, making him a beloved figure to union workers, despite his connection to the mob. In short, his efforts helped make the Teamsters perhaps the largest labor union in the United States. Throughout the 1940s and 50s, Hoffa's relationship with the mob remained relatively stable, and by 1952, Hoffa was the nation's vice president of the Teamsters, and 5 years later became the Teamsters General, International President. Which sounds like a made-up term.
Well, if you're on good terms with the mob, you can pick whatever title you want.
Yeah, I am the General general, or I'm the 5-star general of the Kentucky Fried. That is what I am.
I like it.
This not associated with KFC, by the way.
What's the matter, Colonel Sanders? Chicken?
I'm not chicken, I just make it. And under Hoffa's leadership, the Teamsters grew to a vast membership. Hoffa himself would say in an interview later,
In the 10 years I was president of the Teamsters, I raised the membership from 800,000 to more than 2 million and made it the single largest labor union in the world.
2 million people, Shane.
That's impressive.
That's how many people I would like to be listening to this podcast right now.
Yeah.
Are you part of the 2 million army? Or are you part of the 8,000 or 800,000 warriors, we'll say? Who are you a part of? Shane, which one are you a part of? Are you part of
you're asking
the 2
me.
million?
I thought we were asking the listeners. Oh,
I'm asking both of you at this point.
Yeah,
If both of
I'm
you
the
don't
2
answer,
million.
I'm going to be very upset.
I'm the 2 million army. I am all 2 million.
You're all 2 million?
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
I was diagnosed with... Never mind. We won't go down that road.
I was diagnosed with multi-person disorder. Do you mean personality? No, I'm just multiple people. During this time, Hoffa was considered to be one of the most powerful public figures in America. However, Hoffa was not without powerful enemies as well, namely the U.S. Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, the younger brother of President John F. Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy had spent years investigating Hoffa, first as chief counsel to the Senate Rackets Committee, and later as his brother's Attorney General, making it his mission to put Hoffa in prison for his mob ties. He worked with the Justice Department and formed the Get Hoffa Squad. Could you imagine having a...
Yeah, it's no Zodiac Task Force, but...
Mark, if you're listening, Mark, no, we're not making a show called the Get Hoffa Squad. Could you imagine that's just the spin-off?
Oh, gosh.
The Get Hoffa Squad is the spin-off to Zodiac Task Force. Screw Lost Transmissions. We don't need them. This is the show, baby. With the sole purpose of putting Hoffa behind bars. Kennedy said this about Jimmy Hoffa.
He's not just the most powerful man in Labour. He's the most powerful man in the country next to the president.
In return, Hoffa famously hated all of the Kennedys, fueling mutual public dislike between Hoffa and Bobby Kennedy especially. Hoffa's disdain for the Kennedys was so strong that upon hearing news of John F. Kennedy's assassination in 1963, Hoffa was heard saying this about his archenemy Bobby Kennedy.
Bobby Kennedy's just another lawyer now.
Shane, I'm connecting something here.
Okay.
In the JFK assassination, there was more than one shooter. Was the other shooter Jimmy Hoffa?
I don't know.
I solved the case.
We don't even need to finish
just
the episode.
We'll never know. We'll never know. Cold line, honestly.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? You don't have to say their name, Shane, but just imagine your arch nemesis in front of you, and like their brother died. Like, what do you say to them at that point? Like, do you feel bad for them and just go, I'm sorry, man? Or do you like double down on like how much you dislike them and you're just like, yeah, screw you. Yeah. Bad man, Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Oh my goodness. Soon enough, everything changed for Hoffa and his mob relationship in the 1960s, as Hoffa's use of these mob funds finally caught up with him. In 1964, Hoffa was found guilty. In 1964, Hoffa was found guilty of jury tampering, bribery, and mail fraud and sentenced to 13 years in prison.
Is that M-A-I-L or M-A-L-E?
M-A-I-L.
Okay,
but I would love
sure.
I would love to see some M-A-L-E fraud.
I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, obviously. From behind bars, Hoffa appointed his deputy, Frank Fitzsimmons, as the acting president of the Teamsters in Hoffa's absence. On December 23, 1971, Hoffa was pardoned by President Richard Nixon. You know, Tricky Dick.
He's not a crook.
No, he is not. 2 days before Christmas, too. Just was like, you know what? You're good. You're done.
Police Navidad.
Police Navidad. Yo, first it was Bobby Kennedy, now it's Richard Nixon? I'm hearing so many voices today. On December 23, 1971, Hoffa was pardoned by President Richard Nixon, but under one condition. Hoffa should not engage in direct or indirect management of any labor organization until at least March of 1980. Hoffa agreed and, in return, supported Nixon's bid for re-election in 1972. After his release from prison, however, Hoffa made his intentions known that he would like to regain his power and position as the Teamsters president, and he was willing to do anything possible to achieve that.
They all know I'm back, very much back, and that I will be the general president again, come hell or high water.
Now, that leads us to the events of July 30th, 1975. And guess what? That's actually this week. Yeah, that's right. I just chose a release date, July 30th. I hope I get to keep this part in. This was the date that Jimmy Hoffa vanished, never to be seen again. So what happened? Well, here's what we do know. Hoffa was seen outside of the Macus Red Fox, a restaurant in the Detroit area. Apparently, Hoffa was asked to meet two acquaintances at 2 p.m. Those two men were Anthony Giancalone, aka Tony Jack, and Anthony Provenzano, aka Tony Pro, who were both also Teamsters. But neither man showed up to this meeting, both men insisting, when they were being questioned by the FBI, that there was no meeting set up. Provenzano, under questioning, had told investigators that he was playing cards in Union City, New Jersey, on the day that Hoffa disappeared, apparently playing with Stephen Andretta, the brother of the Genovese crime family associate Thomas Andretta. Hoffa called his wife, Josephine, around 2:30 p.m. from a nearby payphone to tell her what had happened. There were 5 witnesses who later told investigators that they had seen Hoffa in the restaurant parking lot, looking like he was waiting for somebody, all afternoon. It stands to reason that because Hoffa was fairly famous and recognizable, that these witnesses would know who he was, so we can trust them.
I agree with
Giving
that.
giving further credit to obviously giving further credit to them seeing him. I feel like it would be like if you kind of looked out the window and you were just like, oh hey, that's Tony Hawk. Sweet. I don't want to go bother him. I'm just gonna keep eating my salad here.
Do a kickflip. Tony,
do a kickflip.
Tony, do a kickflip.
You go out to him and ask him, "Are you Tony Hawk?" No. Oh, sorry. Tony Hawk then tweets, "Yo, this guy totally asked if I was Tony Hawk, but I said no." Then you go on Twitter and see that, and you're like, "No!" Other witnesses said that a burgundy Mercury Marquis with 3 men inside picked up Hoffa in the restaurant parking lot, which would most likely be the last time anyone saw Hoffa alive.
Not if you count the 3 men in the car.
That's true. That is so true, actually. Holy cow. It wouldn't be the last time he was seen alive. It would be the last time anybody besides the people in the car saw him alive. I mean, what if, technically, I mean, how tinted are these windows back in, what was the 75? So, like, how tinted are these windows, really, that people can't see into the car? I don't know. Witness statements about Hoffa getting into the Mercury Marquis seem to be verified by DNA evidence found years later, including a hair found in the car that was confirmed to belong to Hoffa. The very next morning, Hoffa's car was found in the restaurant's parking lot. Therefore, it's fairly credible, if not likely, that this was the car that transported Hoffa to a secondary location where he may have been killed. Witnesses also stated that the driver of the car looked to be a man named Charles Chuckie O'Brien. O'Brien was known to be a foster son and protege to Hoffa. However, O'Brien always denied in later interviews any involvement in Hoffa's disappearance, saying that Hoffa never entered that car. O'Brien would be scrutinized by investigators after Hoffa's disappearance, with some people maintaining that O'Brien's relationship with Hoffa suffered after O'Brien thought that Hoffa should have gotten him better positions in the Teamsters. According to Hoffa's daughter, Barbara Ann Crancer, C-R-A-N-C-E-R. What do we think that is? Crancer or Cranker?
I'd say Crancer.
Cranker? I barely know her. That one slipped out a little bit. According to Hoffa's daughter, Barbara Ann Crancer, O'Brien was indeed driving the car the day her father disappeared, saying the following.
If my dad's hair was in the car, he was there.
Well, yeah. I assume that your father does not give hairs to random people and just go sprinkle these about, please.
Yes.
Could you imagine oh wait, it would have to be beard hair for you, right?
It would.
Yeah. Oh. Rubs head gently.
Could be back hair.
I relate to that a little bit too hard. On top of that, the car had recently been cleaned, as noted by investigators. O'Brien had claimed that he was using the car to run errands, including moving a 40-pound package of salmon from Teamsters headquarters in Detroit to the house of a union official. O'Brien said that the salmon had spilled blood in the back seat of the car, so he needed to clean it up. Gross smell. That would smell awful. Like, I feel like you can't wash that smell out of the car, right? Like, did investigators like go into the car and were just like, oh, something smells. Oh, I guarantee you, one wisecracking officer used the joke. Something seems fishy about this. I know one person did it, or they at least had to be thinking it, right? Quit floundering around. Let's get back to the case.
Oh, God.
I'm trying to come up with something for salmon, but there's nothing really. I keep salmon on the brakes. I don't know.
It's a valiant effort.
I tried. Later, when Hoffa's son, James P. Hoffa, asked O'Brien if he was involved in his father's disappearance, O'Brien fled the room. If that's not a dead giveaway of O'Brien's guilt in some way, who knows what it is.
Run away!
Could you imagine, like, okay. Shade, we're gonna set up a little improv scene here. You stole $20 out of my wallet. No. I stole $20 out of your wallet, and you're coming to confront me about it. All right. And scene, go.
Hey, Matt. Did you take $20 from my wallet?
I gotta go. That's how that conversation probably happened too. I gotta go. Maybe the man really had to use the men's room. I don't know. Either way, O'Brien insisted that he wasn't involved, saying to the Miami Herald in 1985,
"I'm tired of being accused of something I didn't do. If I thought something was going to happen to the old man, it wouldn't have happened to him. Because if someone was going to do harm to Mr. Hoffa, they were going to have to do harm to me first."
Yeah, he really went there, dude.
Yeah.
He said, "You're gonna have to go through me." This guy's a real life comic book character.
His car smelled like fish. Does that mean that he was sleeping with the fishes? See?
Oh, you brought it back. You did it. I love it. We're gonna have so many more fish puns by the end of this, I feel. Now that we said something about it, though, no more. Ultimately, Hoffa's body was never found despite all of the searches, both literal area searches and searches through phone records. Now, one thing that seems to be generally agreed upon about Hoffa's disappearance is that he was most likely killed by the mob. In January 1976, federal investigators wrote the Hoffex Memo, which indicated that authorities suspected that the mob decided to kill Hoffa. Why? Apparently, the mob was concerned that Hoffa would make it known that they had infiltrated the Teamsters, accessing its pension fund to pay for his illegal operations. Which leads to another question. Why would Hoffa divulge information to the FBI? One such book, I Heard You Paint Houses, written by Charles Brandt, suggests that Hoffa would be willing to swap information with the authorities to lift his 1980 restriction on union activity that Richard Nixon had ordered, highlighting Hoffa's increasing desire to get back into union leadership. Sick name for a book, by the way. I Heard You Paint Houses. And apparently I have not read the book. I've heard several people reference this book when talking about Jimmy Hoffa, though. So I feel like it is a book about Jimmy Hoffa's life, probably. Just a cool name for a book, I Heard You Paint Houses. Just like if I were to write a book about Shane, it would be like, I heard you make beard oil. But it would be about how you infiltrated the beard oil funds, or it's about how you infiltrated the Raving Lunatic funds and sent it all to Las Vegas.
Yes. No.
Sorry. I knew you had access to the funds.
Shut up.
I'm telling Scott. On top of that, Hoffa had also been vocal about getting the mob out of the union and its pension fund altogether. Despite all these indications, the FBI could never figure out who it was that would have wanted Hoffa dead. However, about 4 months into the investigation into Hoffa's disappearance, an inmate in New Jersey named Ralph Picardo claimed he had obtained information while one of Hoffa's supposed killers visited him in prison. Picardo's information soon led investigators to form their list of suspects, most of whom were connected directly to Tony Provenzano. But all of these suspects would take the Fifth Amendment and not testify in court, dashing any hopes of indictment against Provenzano or any other suspects. Hence, here we are, a cold case. In any event, Hoffa was officially declared dead on July 30th, 1982, 7 years after his disappearance. And now we get to the fun part. The theories of what happened to Hoffa, or rather, more who may have killed him. So, we're going to have a lot of fun names in here, Shane. I have, let's see, I want to say six suspects here. And we're going to kind of go through each of them, and then at the end we'll have a little final verdict, if that's fine with you.
Oh, I like it.
So our first theory is that Hoffa was killed by a man named Salvatore Sally Bugs Briguglio at Roland McMaster's horse farm in Milford Township in Pike County, Pennsylvania. If that was not a lot for you to process, no, those were not made-up words. Those were all real. McMaster was an enforcer for the Teamsters, and Briguglio was a hitman for the Genovese crime family, as well as a business agent for the local 560 for the Teamsters. This theory is supported by author and investigative reporter Dan Moldea, who interviewed Briguglio before he was killed. In 2006, the FBI searched for Hoffa's remains at the farm, but to no avail. However, Moldea, in one of his books on the subject, posits that Briguglio killed Hoffa on the farm and put his body in a 55-gallon drum and sent it to a mob-controlled landfill in New Jersey in a Gateway transportation truck. It just so happens that the truck's company president was a Teamsters pension trust fundee, or fund trustee. So, this guy, essentially, just to kind of circle back to him, this guy, Sally Bugs, kills Hoffa at this farm after bringing him there, shoves him in a 55-gallon drum, puts him in a truck to go to New Jersey, of all places. Ugh. And then, Hoffa just, disintegrates in the barrel. There's nothing, obviously you can't really, what are you going to do after that? You're dead in a barrel.
Yep. Just gonna decompose with the rest of the trash.
On to our next theory. Our next theory is that Anthony, or Tony Provenzano, ordered the hit on Hoffa. Federal investigators theorize that Provenzano, also a Teamster, as well as a mid-level mob figure, organized the hit because of conflict that had erupted between him and Hoffa while both men were in prison together in Pennsylvania. Their conflict grew to the point where both men started despising one another. According to Hoffa's son, Provenzano, as Hoffa's enemy, was thought to be influencing Hoffa's successor in the Teamsters, Frank Fitzsimmons. In 1973 and 74, Hoffa had asked Provenzano for his support to regain his former position as president of the Teamsters, but their mutual hatred increased after this. According to Hoffa, Provenzano had threatened to pull his guts out and kidnap his grandchildren if he tried to become a Teamsters president again.
That's savage.
Not cool, man. I'm gonna rip your guts out and steal your grandkids. Just trying to can you give me an Italian mobster real quick, just telling me off and saying that you're gonna pull my guts, or what was it? I'm gonna pull your guts out and kidnap your grandchildren. Could just do it for me, please.
Let me see if I can get Italian. I'm gonna rip out your guts and I'm gonna kidnap your grandchildren.
I suddenly have a fear of Mario and Luigi at this point.
Yes. It's
me. I'm gonna pull your guts out. I'm gonna steal your grandkids. Adding fuel to this theory, when Ralph Picardo was interviewed by the FBI while in prison, he basically stated plainly that Provenzano was the mastermind. It bears noting, too, that Provenzano technically had an alibi for that day, going back to his claim that he was in New Jersey playing cards with Thomas Andretta's brother. Does that mean that Provenzano had knowledge of what was going to happen back in Detroit? Yeah, of course not, but since Provenzano passed away in 1988, there's no surefire way of knowing that. Kind of coincidental that he's just, I was playing cards, I was over in Jersey, you don't even know, I was playing cards.
I had to take some garbage to New Jersey, and then I was playing cards.
That's who was driving the truck. Yeah. Our third theory, we're halfway through. Richard Kuklinski, a.k.a. the Iceman, killed Hoffa. Sick nickname, man. Sick nickname. Kuklinski was an infamous hitman and serial killer. When he was interviewed in prison for hundreds of hours by author Philip Carlo, Kuklinski claimed to have been paid $40,000 to kill Hoffa by the mob. Apparently, at the orders of powerful mob figure Russell Buffalino. According to Kuklinski, he drove to Detroit with 4 other mob members, which could have possibly been Tony Provenzano, Salvatore Bergoglio, Gabriel Bergoglio, and Thomas Andretta, and picked up Hoffa at the restaurant. They then knocked Hoffa out, stabbed him with a hunting knife in the head, and transported his body to New Jersey in a car trunk that was later crushed and sold as scrap metal. Kuklinski would actually later say, "He's part of a car somewhere in Japan right now." Many people, however, have dismissed Kuklinski's claim, saying that he was a gross liar and exaggerator. Kuklinski died in 2006.
I just want to say Bergoglio.
Bergoglio.
Kuklinski Bergoglio.
Do you think at some weird, like, Italian mob-themed restaurant, there's, like, a burger that's named after Bergoglio, and it's called the Burger Gerguglio? The Bergoglio. Shane, I feel like we have a restaurant idea on our hands, just like unsolved cafe.
It'll be called the Get Hoffa Squad.
The Get Hoffa Squad. I feel like there's like a pun in there somewhere, like the Get Hoffa Squatza. I don't know. I'll come up with something by the end of this, I promise. Our next theory, though, and this is a rather big one, so I apologize. I'm gonna yawn beforehand.
Then you're gonna make me do it, damn it.
Dude, I've been yawning all day today. Our next theory is a rather big one, like I said. Frank Sheeran, a.k.a. the Irishman, killed Hoffa and on orders from the crime boss, Russell Buffalino. Oh, dude, Russell Buffalino dip? Or Russell Buffalino chicken wings?
Yes.
There we go. Sheeran, like Ed, the Irishman, near the end of his life, was interviewed by author Charles Brandt. Hoffa was the one who originally hired Sheeran to be the killer. Hoffa is said to have used the Irishman to get rid of his rivals to secure his Teamsters presidency. The Irishman claimed that after they picked up Hoffa at the restaurant, they drove Hoffa to an empty home where Sheeran shot Hoffa in the back of the head as he walked inside. Sheeran then left as Hoffa's body was taken to a mob-controlled funeral home, cremating him. Sheeran evidently felt deeply guilty for betraying and killing Hoffa, but he did so because he would also have been killed by the mob if he had refused. Sheeran said that he intentionally sat in the front passenger seat of the car, trying to send a secret warning to Hoffa, because Hoffa would usually sit in the front passenger seat. So I called him Ed Sheeran. So Sheeran, I keep wanting to call him Ed Sheeran for no reason. I have to correct it to the Irishman at some point. So the Irishman hoped that Hoffa would notice that there was something wrong with this meeting. Hoffa's son also said that he believed that his father would have entered the car if the Irishman was inside, and that he wouldn't have done that if it had been somebody else, except for perhaps Chuckie O'Brien. Furthermore, Sheeran happened to be in the Detroit area when Hoffa disappeared. He even named a house where the murder took place, but attempts to locate Hoffa's blood evidence led absolutely nowhere. Ultimately, there was no real evidence. Apart from Sheeran's assurance. Although it seems likely that he was telling the truth as he saw it. It's also feasible that Sheeran may have wanted to clear his guilty conscience before passing away because he was a Catholic. Those dirty Catholics. Ultimately, Sheeran died in 2003, and his interview with Charles Brandt became the subject of Brandt's book, I Heard You Paint Houses. Oh, we figured it out. I know what it is now. Published the next year and mentioned earlier in this episode. Thanks, John. You saved me there, bud. And this take on Hoffa's disappearance was later made into Martin Scorsese's 2019 film The Irishman, starring Robert De Niro as Sheeran, Al Pacino as Hoffa, and Joe Pesci as Russell Buffalino.
Joe Pesci.
It's like, do you remember the Zodiac movie?
No.
The one with, what's his face? Jake Gyllenhaal? Is that who it is? I think it's Jake Gyllenhaal.
The only movie I think of, Donnie Darko.
Good movie.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
No, I don't think I saw the Zodiac one with Gyllenhaal.
It's actually not that bad. I kind of like it a little bit. It's interesting to say the least, because Jake Gyllenhaal plays a reporter at a news station that the Zodiac was like sending letters to and stuff, and he's like trying to figure out who the Zodiac was, and it really, I think it implicates Arthur Lee Allen like very, very heavily that he was the Zodiac. But like it absolutely goes nowhere. It's a good watch. I would very, very happily review it at some point, but I don't think we'll ever get there. Another big theory. Our next one. It's a doozy. It's that Hoffa could have been killed by Russell Buffalino because of secret deals between the government and the mob. Alright, so strap in for this one. This theory is tied directly to Frank Sheeran's theory through Russell Buffalino, whom Sheeran claimed had co-ordered the hit. Now, we're going to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole here for a little bit, so bear with me for a second here. According to a PBS investigation focused on Hoffa and taped White House conversations with President Richard Nixon at the time, Hoffa's successor, Frank Fitzsimmons, worked with Nixon to pardon Hoffa and get him out of prison. It was also being heavily suggested that Fitzsimmons played a major role in Hoffa being banned from the Union until 1980. The tapes indicated that Fitzsimmons wanted Hoffa out of prison, but still on strings, so he could keep control of the Teamsters that supported Hoffa. However, Fitzsimmons didn't want Hoffa to be able to seize power, which led to this restriction on Hoffa's union activity that we talked about earlier. On Nixon's side, the president believed that pardoning Hoffa would kind of make him more likable in the blue-collar eyes. After all of this, though, and his attorney general, John Mitchell, had once said in the tapes about Hoffa, he's just a tough, beer-drinking, no-good son of a bitch, like most of them. But there is more to this theory. Evidently, Wayne State University's Reuther Labor Library contained documents that revealed that members of Provenzano's mob organization sent a representative to Vegas to deliver $500,000 to Nixon's special counsel, Charles Colson. The documents showed that even more of the mob's money was sent to Nixon after Hoffa pardoned, almost totaling near $1 million. Around this time, the Nixon administration was in just a little bit of trouble with some little thing called like the Watergate scandal or something. I don't know, never heard of it. And according to a memo from the Justice Department, this money could have been used by the administration to try and cover up the White House's involvement in the Watergate burglary. Despite those assertions, these payments to Nixon were never actually confirmed. But if they were confirmed, it would essentially prove that the mob also owned Nixon as well. But that's obviously a whole other story. But right now, I'm sure you're wondering, what does this detail have to do with Hoffa and his disappearance? Well, let me tell you. These documents also propose that Hoffa may have been suspicious of this activity between Nixon and the mob, and that Hoffa could have been planning to go public with this information, that the mob paid off Richard Nixon, the president. Perhaps Hoffa could have used this information to try to regain his leadership position of the Teamsters. Therefore, it stands to reason that Russell Bufalino, who at that time was one of the most powerful American mob figures, would have been very nervous about this prospect. Furthermore, in 1975, Time magazine published an article that linked Bufalino to the CIA by way of certain activities happening in Cuba with the mob and the CIA, specifically a plot to kill Cuban leader Fidel Castro. According to the book The Quiet Dawn, written by journalist Matt Burbeck about Bufalino, Bufalino was incredibly upset by the article getting published, as it basically destroyed his secrecy concerning these particular goings-on. As a result, he was determined to silence anyone who could have potentially shed light on his Cuban activity. He also heard word that Hoffa was going to meet with the church committee, which was looking into the CIA and its activity in Cuba. And Hoffa wasn't the only one, apparently. Mobsters Sam Momo Giancana and John Roselli were due to testify as well. And sure enough, Giancana, Roselli, and Hoffa all disappeared in various ways after Bufalino heard about their plans. And both Giancana and Roselli turned up dead. Coincidence? Perhaps.
Maybe.
Or perhaps not. We may never know if there was more to this, but it's a weird, like, I just reading it, I felt like I had a dartboard in front of me, or not a dartboard, like a push pin board, just connecting all the lines, and then just
right.
Like, oh my goodness, just in the middle, like the pin, you carry it and it's just moving on its own. It's like, where's it go? Where's it? And then you put it in and it's just the face of Fidel Castro. It's like, where did he come in here?
Yeah, that's pretty in-depth. That's crazy, though. A lot of it makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
We have one more theory here. The last theory, to touch on briefly, is that Hoffa is actually still alive. Or he was still alive at the time of his disappearance. This is mostly theorized merely because his body was obviously never found. The dark version of this theory is that Hoffa was still in mob custody somewhere getting tortured. The rumor was that he was getting tortured in New Jersey, I believe. And the other rumor that spread, which is a personal favorite of mine, and I like thinking of it this way, and it's why I wore this awesome special shirt. But the other theory of Hoffa still being alive involves him being alive in South America with a go-go dancer that he apparently married.
Okay.
I'm sure that would have been heaven for him, right?
Yes. It's better than waking up dead.
Yeah. So there's like all of our theories. That's kind of like the story as well of Jimmy Hoffa's disappearance, and obviously there's a whole bunch of theories out there, but these are the ones that I think have the most credence to them about how he disappeared, or obviously who could have killed him. But the question is, like, what do you think, Shane? Like, what is your final verdict out of these 6? So just kind of repeating all of them real quick. Our first one was
The farm.
Sally Bugs, the farm. The next one was that Tony Provenzano ordered the hit. The third one was the Iceman, Richard Kuklinski, who was like the serial killer. And then it was Ed Sheeran, the Irishman, who was like his friend.
Maybe he's in cahoots with Ted Cruz.
Y'all know it's funny. Jono wrote these episodes. And at the end here, he says, "What do you guys think? Don't tell anyone, but it was actually Ted Cruz." No lie, it's in the script. Our fifth theory was that long one that I went on with Fidel Castro eventually coming in there. And then the last one was either him being alive, being tortured, or alive with a go-go dancer. What do you think happened?
What I think happened was him being killed on the farm and then shipped out on a drum. That seems the most plausible and cleanest way to get away with it. But what I want to be true is number 5, with all the mob ties into the government. That just sounds the most theatrical and interesting.
It sounds so cool. It's like, oh my goodness, this is insane.
What's yours?
I tend to agree with you. I like that theory. I think the other one that I kind of like was his friend, the Irishman, I believe it was. Who was like,
forced to kill him.
Yeah. Obviously, years later, it was became an amazing movie. So it's like, I kind of like that one. But yeah, I think there's a lot to this case that's just so all over the place. It's one of those ones where it's like you kind of know what happened, but the only reason it's unsolved is because you don't have that smoking gun, you don't have who killed him, and you don't have his body, obviously. So it's like, where do you kind of go from there?
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's a big piece of like American history too, which is cool.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, I forget what it is. A lot of people will say like, oh, he's buried under the baseball field or whatever. I don't actually know if that's true though. And there's like a lot of weird twists and turns to this case, obviously. Like Chuckie O'Brien, who's like, when Mr. Hoffa's son asked him, like, "Hey, did you kill my dad?" He's just like, I gotta get out of here. Like, why was he so secretive about that? Yeah. Obviously, I think the mob kind of silenced him a little bit. But I also kind of want to hear what the listeners think. Listeners, what do you think? Do you think that Jimmy Hoffa is somewhere with a go-go dancer still, or do you think that he is currently dead in the ground somewhere? That's where I think he currently is, but y'all know what? To each their own.
He's singing that song, "Can You Believe My Dream Girl Is a Go-Go Dancer?"
Yeah. That's going to be a great outro song. But speaking of outro, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. I don't have anything written down for this, but we're going to freestyle it, all right? Okay. First off, thank you for listening to this episode of Cold Case Chase. We are so happy to be back. I know I can obviously speak for myself, but I know Shane has been pretty hyped about this as well. But speaking of Shane, you have a awesome beard oil company that you run. Do you want to quickly plug that as well?
Yes. Recently launched a beard care company called Tabletop Beard. Launched it with my brothers. We have beard oil, beard butter, beard balm, and the website's tabletopbeard.com, and check it out. A lot of good stuff there.
Oh yeah, I will sometimes at work just go onto the website and read like the cool stuff. That's amazing.
Yeah,
you
it's
guys have
cool.
like a legit like writer.
Yeah,
like,
we have an award-winning fantasy author who did a lot of the write-ups. He does our blog posts. And we have an artist from Paris who is phenomenal, and it's kind of, we created this quality product, but we're also combining kind of storytelling elements with everything and just kind of creating a universe around it. It's a lot of fun.
It's super cool. I'm very, very excited to go get more. I currently wear the Bard. All of you chasers out there, so don't be afraid to go grab some, because it smells delicious. All of them do.
And we have sample bottles available, so if you don't want to, if you're not sure you're gonna like it, just get a small sample bottle.
Do you have like a sample pack?
Not yet.
You guys should do like a sample pack of like 6 or 7 that people can choose.
Mm-hmm.
Sick.
Yeah.
And then I could just get 6 bards. I'm just really not sure if I'll like it, you know? But some other cool stuff we have on Raving Lunatic Media, the network. We have Sci-Fi Malady. Go check out the most recent month was Monster May. The guys went through some awesome monster movies this week, or this month with Ethan. And then June also probably happened at this point. I don't want to date where we are currently, but I think I might just have done that. And then go check out the awesome show, Zodiac Task Force. It might not be the Get Hoffa Squad, but it definitely is the Zodiac Task Force.
And it will maybe have somewhat of a different component to it by the time this launches.
Oh, that's true. That is true. We are launching a visual version of it. Please go donate to the Patreon and the GoFundMe so that we can make that happen. We are dropping a minimalist trailer on... It will probably have dropped by now, but July 10th we dropped that, and then hopefully dropping a full trailer by the end of that month. It's weird recording these prior because it's like, I don't know what's going to come out at that point. But yeah, definitely go check out episodes of Sci-Fi Malady. Go check out episodes of Zodiac Task Force. Also, upcoming, The Janitor. That's going to be a show dropping in September or October. Keep your eyes and ears out for that as well. With that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. Thank you,
to listen to Why You Should.
Oh yeah, go listen to Why You Should. That's my other podcast. I forgot about that one. Dude, I haven't made an episode for that one in a little bit too. I've been so excited about this that I'm just like, oh shoot, I have to do that one. But yeah, go check out Why You Should as well. And thank you all for listening to the return of Cold Case Chase. And before we go, Shane, give us some knowledge as we leave here.
Just be warned that there's mosquitoes out there. I was outside the other day and I got bit like 13 times, so watch out for them skeeters.
I hate mosquitoes, man.
Yeah, I've been scratching this whole episode. I hope it doesn't get picked up on the microphone.
No, it shouldn't. I mean, if it does, I don't think it'll bother me. It might bother a couple of the viewers.
It'll be like the ASMR in the background of the episode.
Exactly. It'll be great. Oh my goodness. But yeah. All right, I gotta get going. So thanks for watching listening to Cold Case Chase. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is the cross-examination room.
Raving Lunatic. Ha ha ha!